Hey people, welcome to Background Stories. I'm Trig, and right now I'm excited about this conversation I'm about to have. Singer, songwriter, arranger, composer, musician, Grammy Award-winning producer. Over his career, he's worked with the likes of Thundercat, Mac Miller, and Kimbra, just to name a few. And he's recorded with Dr. Dre, Ty Dolla $ign, and the list goes on. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Taylor Graves. What's up, my brother?
What up? What up? Thanks for having me, man.
But thanks for coming, man. Let's just get to it. You obviously grew up in a musical home. I know that on a personal tip, but we'll talk about that a little later. When did you first start learning music, singing, and what inspired you to continue in doing that?
I first started playing music around 4.5 years old. My father, Carl Graves, and my mom, Anna Graves, enrolled me in Yamaha School of Music in the San Fernando Valley. And at this moment, my brother, who is 2 years older than me, was already enrolled in that school. And so it was kind of the natural progression of what we were doing at the time. And so I just followed suit, you know. And my dad and mom basically had the genius idea to start us early on the piano. And so I give them the full credit for everything every door that's opened in my life because of that, you know, the idea of starting their children on an instrument so early in life. And so, yeah, that's, I'm not going to give a year when that was, but that's when I started.
And you both kill. You both kill
Appreciate
on them keys, and production, everything else. Like I said, we're going to get into some of that. So I know you, and the reason that you're here, and it's personal to me, is your dad and Carl Graves and Maxie Anderson actually started managing me. That's how I got my start, my in the door.
Yep.
And one of the first producers he introduced me to was you at 16 years old.
Yeah.
You and your brother Cameron. And I think we wrote at least a dozen songs, maybe more, maybe like 20, 25 songs. Yeah. Some we maybe have to come back to and complete.
Right.
But yeah, your dad is an amazing musician himself. He had a hit, didn't he, in the late 70s, somewhere around there?
Yeah, he had some chart. He was topping the charts a bit with "Baby Hang Up the Phone" in the 70s.
Yeah, and he worked with Oingo Boingo and David Foster and all that.
Yeah, so my dad is from Canada and moved to Vancouver from Calgary and was singing at nightclubs and stuff like that, and then ended up linking up with David Foster and a group called Skylark. And they basically became kind of big. You know, they had a hit themselves, Wildflower, which is wasn't written by them, but it was they had a hit on it, and so they started touring America with that hit, and it was a mixed race band with a pregnant lady singing vocals, and the South was not having it at the time.
Right.
But they had their experiences, and then they with their management eventually figured it was smart to move to L.A. where show business was really bustling at the time, and so they all parked here in L.A.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. So,
But yeah, Maxie Anderson, shout out to Maxie. She's like a second mother to me.
And to me, big shout out.
Yeah.
Man, influential in many ways.
Yes.
Who do you, speaking of influence, who do you feel influenced your style, your musicianship, work ethic, all that kind of stuff? Like, who are the people that stand out that you always looked up to?
Yeah. My dad, he's probably one of my biggest influences, work ethic wise, just as a human, and falsetto wise, you know, because I pride myself by having a falsetto that I can, you know, use whenever I need to, and
to hit the other notes.
Just to hit the other notes.
Yeah, you know, when the break's right there.
Yeah, like you know, to get the ladies, you know, to communicate to the ladies, you know, the falsetto, and I get that from my dad, straight up. And so he's one of my biggest influences. And then after that, he turned me on to John Coltrane, as, you know, one of my favorite jazz saxophone players. And then he turned me and my brother on to Stevie Wonder, who's one of my biggest influences, as a songwriter and a singer, obviously. And then later on in life, I got introduced to George Duke's music, and he became like my ultimate
Fire,
influence.
dude.
Yeah. So a little bit after we worked together, I'd say around like 24, 25, around when I was 25, that's when I learned about George Duke, and it just seeped into my mental.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I met Leon, he became Leon Ware. He became one of my bigger influences as well.
Oh, yeah.
Just the way he was, like you said, he was that dude, and he was a huge songwriter for Motown.
Oh, yeah.
With multiple hits, multiple hits.
Oh, Marvin Gaye, so many years, all the way to Maxwell.
All the way,
Yeah. So
Groove Theory, all
Groove
the
Theory,
way. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Man, dude, right in the studio with him again, Maxie, with that connection.
Yeah, shout out Maxie.
We were cheering earlier, but never was there a session that he wasn't lighting up that good and enjoying the writing session.
Before it was
man.
legal, this
Yes.
man would smoke anywhere,
anytime.
before Snoop Dogg. Yes,
But
sir.
yeah, rest in peace, that guy, man.
Rest in peace.
So you brought up something that made me think when you brought up Stevie Wonder, right?
Yeah.
So, as I said, we go back, and you and I had written a song with Cameron, and it was for a young kid, Sebastian.
Yep.
And it's a brief story, but it wound up being at this kid's birthday party. Stevie Wonder was there because he was kind of his mentor in that. Somehow, some way, we wound up at the basement of our friend Rob Arbertier's house.
Yeah.
Chilling with you, me, your dad, Cameron,
Mm-hmm.
and Sebastian, I think, jamming with Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
And my flip phone at the time did not have the camera that was going to do justice to that moment. And you're not going to carry around, you got to pick your spots when you're taking photos and stuff. So you don't go to parties with disposable cameras at the time, being that guy.
Right.
So right here, I just want to be told we were jamming with Stevie Wonder, just a few of us having a great time. That's a moment that, man, I'll never forget. That was really cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When did you first start singing that you would call professionally? And how did that come about? From there, it's just like, this is it. Sky's the limit from here.
That's a great question. My dad was part of an original member of a band called Oingo Boingo. And Danny Elfman was recording one of the last albums that they were doing. And he wanted children to sing a part. And I happened to be 6 years old, I think, 6 or 7. And my dad already knew we had perfect pitch at that time because Yamaha School of Music, they basically proved that to us, like we did all the tests to show that we could hit a note. And so that's when we kind of like, it was at that around 6 years old that I started singing a little bit more. And then Oingo Boingo was doing that song and they wanted the kids choir. And so that's when he hired a bunch of kids from the band members' kids to come in and sing that song. And so that was like my first gig singing in a studio. And then they performed, I think, Irvine Meadows. And then Danny had the kids that sang on the record come on stage and perform in front of all those people. And Irvine held like 10,000, maybe 5,000 to 10,000 people at the time.
Okay.
And that was my first gig singing professionally at like 6 or 7 years old.
And did you realize at that age what that was, to where like you got that itch or that hook that just brought you in, like, this is what I want to do?
Absolutely. I mean, from messing around backstage and while they were rehearsing, running up and down all over the venue, and all the way till when people were in the audience watching my dad perform, getting the chills to hearing the screams, and then getting called out on that stage and feeling the nervousness, and then singing the part that I knew I already had sang before and it was easy. And then, after I was done, I got off stage and they handed me $100 bill. And I was hooked. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And, money always helps that.
It does. And $100 to a kid, getting that in your hand.
Right.
That's not a quarter for gum.
Hell no.
Yeah. So, okay. Tell me a little bit about your journey after that. How did it kind of expand from there?
Yeah, well,
that's a gap. You're at 6 now.
Right.
So.
Well, 6 to about 10, I know that I started singing more along with practicing piano. And my dad was a big proponent of practicing that, as well. And so it was around 10 so 4 years of practicing and getting inspired and being on that stage, and then my dad and Maxie produced a little like EP on me as a child, and I can't remember exactly if it was 10 or 11 or something like that, but my dad was doing the beats with one of his friends, and Maxie was helping out writing songs, and you know we recorded in my studio that I still record in,
Mhm.
and that's
It's a
when
nice studio.
it like really became something,
Mhm.
and I could see, the CD with my, picture on it, and
Mhm.
you could stick it in there and play it for people. And the beats were like, kind of like 90s, beats. And it was just, that was like the grand opening
Okay.
of my career and, being a recording artist.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
how did it evolve or expand from there? I mean, because you were working with Cameron too on
Well,
things. So how did the dynamics work between you two working together
yeah.
and separate? And what did that look like?
Yeah, this was separate from anything that Cameron was involved
Okay.
with. But we were both practicing piano, and Cameron was, really taking strides in the piano at the time.
Hmm.
He wasn't really singing so much, but he could sing. But he wasn't really singing so much. So it was really a focus that my dad put upon me.
Okay.
And I thought that was really cool.
Hmm.
And in hindsight, I think that's really cool. And so, and it really kind of taught me, vocal, like microphone techniques when I'm singing in the studio, stacking background vocals because I had to stack those background vocals, singing sharp, singing flat, getting frustrated in the booth with, maybe my dad telling me to do it again, feeling that
Right.
feeling of frustration and, having to will through it. And it really kind of set me up for later on in life once I hit high school and I started really like producing my own stuff and really doing my own music, especially around the time that you and I started. It really set me up for understanding the job of a producer and what producers, who make songs and what they do.
So, okay, you brought it up about stacking vocals and whatnot.
Yeah.
So you and I both are in that generation where, at least when I first started, it was still reel to reel. At the very last part,
Yes.
when I started working with you, literally just maybe months after that is when it started going digital.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Mhm.
Otherwise it was like an ADAT or something like that.
Yeah.
But we had to learn our craft because these singers all back in the day that were working like that, that just
Mhm.
goes to show how talented they were.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we're going to go back and do that. You're waiting 20 seconds before you're laying it down again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're stacking at least,
Yeah.
16 vocal tracks on background harmonies and whatnot.
Mhm.
So, honestly, in this day and age, I don't think people appreciate that. They may not appreciate that to the extent that we do. I appreciate the training in that because it taught me now with the way you can do with AI and auto tune.
Yeah.
Again, one of our first songs, "Can't Believe," which your band Six was
Yep.
working on later.
Yeah. Yeah.
But was the first song I'd ever had auto tune on my voice.
Mhm.
But it taught me make it perfect and then perfect it.
And then
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And ear
Absolutely.
training was so important in that regard.
Yeah.
So, and
100%.
you're a scholar in music theory and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure with to an extent with all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Me, as far as sight reading, I can do it because I've done so much choral work.
Mhm.
But ear training is so important for the feel of the music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
that's important, and I hope people never let that go. Okay, so you were talking about your dad and Maxie working on a project of yours.
Yeah.
Were you offered any official record deals with anybody? And share a little bit about what happened with that, because I know you had the group and you had you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I wasn't offered any record deals with that little personal project
mhm.
that my dad and Maxie took upon themselves. Um, it was when I went to high school and joined a band that we ended up playing shows around town
Okay.
and exposing ourselves to music industry executives, that all that started happening. Like, the offers started coming in, and we were playing and singing. All of us in that band were playing instruments and singing. And at the time, there were other, like, our, dream bands were doing that, like Mint Condition
Mhm.
and other bands. So we were kind of doing what was already being done, but then we were super young doing it and then killing at it,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when we started, being offered deals. And then we ultimately went with a development deal with MCA Records under Randy Jackson. And that it took a while to get there, because we were, offered other things but it just we needed that development, and someone who was a musician themselves who could take us under their wings, like Randy Jackson,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and put us in a studio with people that they think would be great for us, like this producer named Daryl Swan, who's amazing, did Macy Gray's record. And he, these producers and these executives really showed us, what it takes, to put a record out as a band. And so, yeah, it wasn't up until about 16, 17 that I started dealing with the record labels. And then prior to that, it was just, a family project, and honing the skills.
So with that deal, I'm assuming that is it Six that you're talking about, that group?
Yeah, it
or
was called
it
YM.
And
YM. Yeah, YM.
They switched the title for
we
a
switched
brief
it
minute.
all up. Yeah, because
Okay.
we're trying to figure out what would be the way to go about it, and the name of the group and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So Six actually was after YM,
Yeah.
and that's it was an optional name that I don't really like in hindsight. YM was cool because it was young men.
Yeah.
And then we actually had some pretty badass people in that group, and some of the members, left, and then other members came in. Like we had Charles McQuarrie singing vocals.
The whole family can sing.
And the
It's
whole
ridiculous.
entire family was monsters on vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it was a pleasure and to be involved with such talented musicians.
Yeah.
And then Cam Talbert ended up singing leads when we got our record deal.
Yep.
And he was going to Hamilton High School as well.
Okay.
And I know we can go into that in another question. But Hamilton High School was like the ultimate place, man. It was, one of the best music academies in the city of Los Angeles. And there was so many talented people that went there, like Omarion and Ty Dolla $ign, Kamasi Washington, Robert Rashad. The list goes on. Kyla Pratt. Like it was just a school of talent.
Right. Wow.
And you had to audition to get in, and we were in the jazz bands playing piano.
Okay.
That's what we ended up auditioning for and getting in ultimately for. It was piano. And we met Cam Talbert because he went to Hamilton High School, and then after Charles McQuarrie was done singing leads in YM, Cam came in and covered those parts, and he was killing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was when I was in high school, towards like maybe a senior year. That's when we got that MCA, development deal.
Yeah, yeah, and it was eclectic, man. You had rappers, singers, everything, dancing, the whole nine. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about, and you've obviously done the session work stuff too in the game.
Yeah, well, that's the thing I forgot to mention is between, when Maxie and my dad were producing that record, there was a lot of like session commercial voice acting, stuff like that going on. Because my dad was really aggressive in getting us into SAG-AFTRA in 1993, and I was 9 years old when I joined SAG-AFTRA.
Wow.
And so like, without a doubt, like if it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't have been doing it. But I did a bunch of commercials around 11, 12, 13 years old, which was also honing my vocal craft.
Yeah.
Like I did the Michael Jordan Frozen Moments thing. It was a huge commercial.
Wow,
that, we put money in a trust fund. And that was when Jordan was dunking on the Lakers in slow motion.
Yeah.
There was a falsetto voice in there. That was me.
Okay.
And then I did the Penny Hardaway Frozen Moments, and then the Mike Tyson versus Holyfield rematch commercial, and then it just kept on going on, and it was because it was like a style of commercial that was popping at the time, and they wanted that falsetto kid to come in, boy soprano kid to come in.
Yeah,
my voice hadn't changed at that point.
Yeah, right.
And then so I started doing other things like Boston Public, and then like I did a bunch of movie stuff too, like The Cable Guy we sang, and I think you probably were on a couple of these movies as well with me, like The Cable Guy and not Happy Gilmore, but
Happy Feet.
Happy Feet. That was further down the line.
That was further down the line
when I was
for us,
adult.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did that, and so around 10 to about 16, it was a lot of honing the craft, did the Malcolm Eddie show,
Mm.
did with choirs and learning how to blend with the person next to you, and did the Democratic National Convention with, back in those days, and just learning how to, sing with the All God's Children choir,
All
who
God's-
were already beasts,
Yep.
how to blend with the people next to you. And that's when I met like the Schillingers and all these people
Mhm.
who were, doing commercials and singing and doing all that.
And clearly, like me, you're observing, you're taking in,
Yeah.
and studio etiquette
Yes.
and being one voice.
Yeah.
You can't come in there and just be a solo artist
Right.
and show out.
Yeah.
Learning to take direction.
And you don't really want to when there's McQuarries and all these beasts.
True.
You're like, let me play my
True.
part.
Let me just play my role
Or figure
Yeah.
out where
I'm just glad to be here.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
And the pay is
And the
definitely
pay
was
helps.
more than $100 bill.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
exactly. We were graduating.
So
the pay was going up.
yeah, no doubt.
know?
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into some of the accolades and stuff that you've been a part of more recently, and we're gonna do some name dropping because we gonna
Let's do it.
I will help you do this, and you can shamelessly do it.
Let's do it.
But I want to ask you, in this industry, it is ever changing. From AI aspects to as we get older and whatnot. Once you look a certain age and you're not necessarily getting the calls you used to get because they don't want that on camera. They want the younger 20s, hip, whatever it is. How do you transition into the new field, the new era of all that kind of stuff to stay relevant in the game and make sure that you're able to continue in your craft of what you love to do, because it's an industry that's very judgmental. It's very vain. It's looking at all that kind of stuff. So how do you stay relevant in the game? Make sure you're still doing what you love to do.
I feel like we're just coming into our own as being the people that at this age, finally, we're the people that are, the sound. It's taking this long to be the relevant sound. Because when I was coming up 10, 12 years old, 15 years old, there was somebody, it was like, Brian McKnight's and all those people that were the sound at the time, and
Thank God for that.
and hits. Yeah, exactly, right? So we had dope, like, people to look up to and be inspired by. And I'm just, I'm not saying that we're the dope people that people are inspired by, but we are what's relevant now. And the way I've come to that conclusion is by having multiple conversations with my father, who's way older than us and has seen these type of waves coming over and over again. And it sometimes takes somebody else to have a conversation with to help you understand and see things from a different perspective. And so we aren't old. We are what is now. And we are in our bag now, as they would say, the kids would say. It's our time. And I've stayed relevant by doing multiple things. You can't, in this music industry, do just one thing.
Right.
You have to be able to diversify and, and make sure that you are touching a whole bunch of bases. So as a producer, I stayed on my, study tip and got dope and kept going with the different programs that came out and found the different programs that worked for me. And then as a singer, I, kept pushing my boundaries as far as I could. And as, an actor, trying to do some background work and get in some of these movies, and I did a little acting in burlesque and a little acting here and there. And then, as a, just anybody else, anything else in the industry too, like a consultant, you know what I mean?
Contracting, we can.
Movie composer, like writing classical music because we are classical pianists. That's how we started. All that Yamaha School of Music ushered us into the classical era. We were playing Chopin and Debussy, so I figured it was smart for me to go ahead and utilize the classical teaching and do new movie music. So this is like 4 different things, different industries that, I've had to really go and be part of in order to stay relevant.
Right. Do you like today's music? I know there's still plenty of things to choose out there, but who are the people that you actually like, man, I'm going to put this on. I want to listen to this on your drive or whatever.
Yeah, I do. And the reason why is because I have a son now, 12-year-old son, 13 now, who puts me on the game and shows me what's dope. And I love the beats. I don't really like how they rap because I
Mhm.
come from a different day and age of rap music.
Bro.
And we know what good rap is, and man, we lived in that era.
Right.
You as well. But I do like the beats, because I've always liked to have a good stereo system in my car that could pump out the bass.
Mhm.
And some of these new beats do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I love the tempos of those beats, 140, 150 BPMs,
Mhm.
and they're like trap beats that I like, little drill beats. So like, kids coming up like Ken Carson and, Playboy Cardi and all these, new little artists that are coming out. I really like their beats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. And so I could go and listen to that for hours, and not really get tired of it unless the rapping is really trash and then I turn it off. But like I'm open minded, but I have to be,
Yeah.
as a producer. And I feel like if you're an artist, you don't necessarily like a vocalist artist and you're a singer or rapper, you don't necessarily have to be open minded to certain things. You want to keep on doing what you do best and stick with it.
Yeah.
But as a producer, you need to open up and accept that things change.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
keep your ear to the ground.
And I think, our parents, everybody has said like, "Oh man, what's this new music coming
Right.
out and stuff." I can say for myself, there are certain people like, her,
Oh yeah,
Ellie Mae, and people that are produced, true vocalists still that I really kind of lean towards in that way because it still has that R&B '90s
yeah,
vibe, which is
hmm
my era of stuff.
yeah,
I love that kind of stuff, and the other stuff I'm kind of learning or it's growing on me. But I do see elements of things being passed down, like you were talking about, where
yeah.
it's being utilized today
Yes.
from earlier. Okay, so I'm a pivot. Speaking of
I'm
pivoting
glad
in
you
the industry,
mentioned
what's up?
her and
Yeah,
LMA. Shout out to them
yeah,
because they are definitely dope
yeah.
in every way.
And
Yeah,
live, recorded, whatever.
new artists too.
Yep,
Dope. Yeah.
yep. Um, so I'm going to pivot to a more controversial topic. We were chatting a little bit
hmm
earlier. We're talking about session singing and whatnot.
Yeah.
And speaking for myself,
hmm
I'll tell you a story because you brought up David Foster earlier.
Yeah.
So years ago, I think this is like 2013, we were doing a session for Mary J. Blige and Stevie Wonder, like 2 different sessions
Dope.
at the same session
Yeah.
at Capitol.
Wow.
And Angie Fisher, shout out to Angie Fisher.
Shout out Angie Fisher.
Contracting it, amazing vocalist herself.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. But she put me on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get there early. I know who it is and what it's part of. So I've always wanted to work, I have my list of Babyface, Jammin' Lewis, Brian McKnight, and David Foster, right?
Right.
So I'm going up these steps into the where the studio booth is, and he sees me. I see him. I'm like, "Hey," he goes, "Hey," and I say, "Hey, I'm here for the session here." He goes, literally turns and goes, "Who hired the white boy for the gospel choir?" And I was like, stuttering Stanley, and Angie just happened to be right behind me. I didn't even know she behind me. She's like, "Oh no. He's good. He'll be fine. Like trust." He goes, "All right. Well, if she says it, then I know it's going to be all right."
Dope.
And so at the end of it, I got a picture with him, and it was like
he adjusted his tone.
He adjusted his tone real quick. Well, coming from Angie, you got to take her at her word.
Period.
So yeah, it was an awesome session.
Wow.
But it proved something that I had kind of seen amongst contracting, and that is there's still a racial element there.
Yeah.
And since I started, I started off in the gospel world with Kirk Franklin, and then went into a lot of R&B stuff, which is, you and I connected doing a lot of R&B stuff, right?
Yeah.
So there's a pop element to what I brought to the table, obviously, but yet and still contractors would kind of look at me like, "Oh, he just does gospel, or he just does R&B."
Yeah.
So I don't get called for, dare I say, because this is literally how the industry is, the white sessions, because I'm over here in this category. And then I don't get called for the black sessions for gospel or anything like that unless it's required to be a multi-ethnical choir, right? So there is that strange dynamic in that I wish, it's all assuming. It's all assuming that this side doesn't do classical, this side doesn't do R&B.
Right.
And somehow I got caught in the middle, which was, it's kind of nice to know that you can do both, but they're not recognizing as that.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that? Have you experienced any of that in that world?
Well, there is definitely, you know, the problem that I see with the contracting in LA is that it's not really fair, because like you said, with the classical choral stuff, a lot of times you don't see black singers get those gigs
Right.
because they can't read. And that's a big reason why people don't get certain gigs is this assumption that these people can't read, and some of them actually do read. We have amazing readers, but they just don't get the opportunity because there's the assumption, like
It's
you're
assumed,
saying.
yeah.
And I feel like it's the contractor's job to get the best man for the gig. Doesn't matter what the assumption is, you want to get the best man for the gig, and that's not always happening, and so there is that discrepancy. It's never really happened to me, so to speak, because I feel like they've always contracted me to be part of both sides of those things. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why, but I think it's because they knew I was maybe a classical pianist and I could read, and so they put me in some of the choral stuff, and then also put me over here with the gospel stuff. But I didn't get a lot of the gospel stuff either because I wasn't as good as some of those singers, period. And so there's that too, which I think is kind of cool. So like over here on the gospel side of things, the best of the best will get the gig.
Yeah.
And I think that's only the best for the culture. You don't want somebody who can't really do that run or do that certain things. And there was guys that could do that. But I feel like a lot of the contractors are playing the buddy system.
I see.
And I think that's the biggest problem. The biggest problem is they have their little niche of people, their little crews, and they go to those crews, but they're not necessarily casting a wide net to get the best people for the gig.
Right.
And I think that's the problem. And I think if we could open up the floor for even more contractors, newer contractors, or even, some of these, like older contractors, maybe bringing, newer contractors into the fray and allowing them to contract some of the gigs, you might get some, newer talent that's good, better than what we have for the gig.
Yeah. And I get loyalty to an extent, but as you said, if it's compromising what could be the best situation for that,
Right.
and some of these singers, even if they don't read,
That's what I'm saying.
their ears are amazing. So the amount of time to listen to it once or twice
That's all
and
they
nail it
need.
anyway,
Right.
doesn't matter if you can read or not. Now,
Period.
people might disagree, who are on the contracting side say, well, no, because they can come in and read it right off the bat.
Right.
But I personally would rather have the better vocalist that's going to deliver with a better tone or whatever I'm looking
Period.
for than the fact that they can read it and just kind of, that's me. But yeah, it's a, and the world is so small, everybody knows each other, which case in point why for you were able to kind of do both because they knew who you were either from your dad or from your experience playing classical. So like this brother can,
Right.
you know what? Let's take a break. Let's take a break, and we'll come back after a brief message, and we're gonna get into more of the juicy stuff. All right?
Let's do it.
Cool, man. We'll be back. Hey everybody, welcome back to Background Stories. I'm here with my friend Taylor Graves.
Yo,
and we're
yo.
about to get into some real stuff right here. But we're going to backtrack on something we want to talk about.
Yeah.
We were discussing in the break. So, gatekeepers. Gatekeepers of session singing. Elaborate a little bit on what we were talking about.
Yeah, just, we were talking about, there was a session I was doing, I think it was American Idol or The Voice. Actually, it was The Voice. And I was singing backgrounds, and I seen Matt, who is an amazing singer himself. And
Matt, Trig, Matt, or another
Trig.
Matt?
That's
okay,
right.
okay, me. Okay,
That's
okay,
right.
I'm with you.
I start hitting government names and it's like, hold on now, I'm no longer here.
That's why we friends.
So Trig, Trig was actually standing in, doing some standing in work. Actually for years you did that.
9 seasons.
And there was stuff that we were singing at the time. I knew in my heart of hearts that you would kill singing this stuff. And so we had a break. We were sitting on the sidelines. We were all eating food. And so I brought Matt up to the contractor of the gig. And I just truly wanted to see my friend be part of the choir with us, and I think Tim Davis actually knew who you were at the time. And so he took the suggestion, and I basically was like, why isn't Matt in the choir with us singing? And it just, it was one of those things. And Trig, by the way. But then earlier when we were talking, you and I were both talking about how that really doesn't happen normally.
No.
Right?
No.
So
I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, man. You'll get the gig. And very rarely do you ever look outside of yourself in that situation because survival. Let's face it. Everybody's trying to survive and make money out here, and you're not trying to give away your gig on a regular basis to someone who can sing better than you. But I wasn't thinking that, and so that's why I wanted to bring that up and maybe suggest to people that do not gatekeep. Open up the floor to everyone. This is, not a sprint. It's a marathon. And we got to all be in it together anyways.
Yeah. I think I agree. And again, it's one of the reasons I really appreciated, that's our friendship, man. And I think you were just kind of thinking, hey, if the person has the talent, we get along. It'd be fun to do this gig together kind of deal. That was part of it. I would say it was the innocence of it too, that you were coming from in
100%.
that sense too. My thoughts on that are, you're confident in what you do. I'm confident in what I do. Not cocky, not arrogant. We're confident. And I think what happens is people get, like you said, they get really tight with what they have and are under the assumption that if I open up the door to anybody else, then I'm going to be out. Sometimes that can happen. But I think if you're confident in who you are and what you bring to the table, you're not intimidated by that, because my tone is different than this person's tone, or how I arrange is different than how this person arranges. And so I myself, I've never been hesitant to be like, okay, I'm not available on this gig on this particular date. Need a couple names here. Boom, 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 boom. I drop you 3-4 names right away that are tenors, that have a smooth tone. If you want a smoky tone, I'll find some people for that too, but have the exact same or not exact same, but similar tone as I have.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? I'm helping out a friend.
Right.
Either pay his bills, get him acclimated in the industry, which is, sometimes a very hard shell to crack. And that's where it's at. So I agree that I understand it, but I think they need to be more open and confident with their own skill,
100%.
because at least people with really good ear as contractors or whatever will know what they need or what they want, or value you for who you are.
Right.
And
to add to that, just before we move on, it's also important to, diversify, like we said earlier. Like for me as well, like I have never ever thought of myself as the best singer. And the confidence came from, not gatekeeping, because thinking that I'm the best at at being in the choir or whatever that energy is, And so the confidence really came from knowing that even if I don't get this gig, you know what I'm saying, I'm still going to be doing production tomorrow, and I'm going to be playing piano behind somebody else the next day. And so it's when you diversify, you build your confidence, and then you're able to, act more generously.
Right.
In all aspects. And also the energy of giving somebody an opportunity will come back to you in the universe, man.
Yeah. God will definitely bless that.
100%.
I think that, you mentioned something with that. The diversity, what we're talking about, staying relevant in the industry. If you're a one-trick pony and that's all you do is sing, that there's going to come a time
Right.
where the voice may not be as strong or your look might not be as young as we discussed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, it went over to voiceovers, it went over to acting.
Right.
Same as
You're
you,
great
or
at that. I
acting,
remember.
arranging, whatever it is,
Yeah.
puppetry, even like
All of it, man.
all of it.
Get your bag.
Exactly. So we also were talking about on our break, Michael Jackson's way of laying down his vocals, stacking vocals, if you will, for all those that don't know what stacking vocals are.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll let you start. On that.
Yeah. One of my favorite records of all time is Michael Jackson's Bad. I mean, I was a kid when it came out at the cassette, and every song had vocal stacks. And as I got older, as a producer, as a singer, I realized exactly what was going on in every one of those songs. And Michael probably had the most stacks out of everybody.
Man.
And there was a time when that was necessary for the hit song, for the record, you know? And I remember even working with you back when I was 16, 17, and we were stacking.
We got up to 32.
We got up
I think
to 30.
Michael did like 64,
Right.
but we do 32.
4 per note,
Per note.
5-part harmonies. Hello.
Let's throw a ninth in there. Can we throw a ninth in
Yeah,
there?
we keep on going. And the lead vocal in there, a passing harmony.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is. And so just that was a part of our childhoods. And so Michael Jackson was the king of pop and the king of stacks, straight up. And it influenced us. But things have been changing recently. I think you were speaking to me about that a little bit as well with the
with
AI.
Well, with AI, and just I've seen some studio producers that are able to. It really is just kind of manipulating it, finding a way to double it in a certain way, to create a stack.
Yeah.
And there's so many different elements of, we'd reverb and echo were our thing, but now there's so many other tweaks that you can do to elevate it or make it seem more present or wider than it is. And we had to create that on our own back in the day.
100%. And you had to have that ear training, and a lot of people that are amateurs in the studio don't realize that sometimes you need to take off one ear headphone so you can hear what you're doing.
Hear yourself. You're not actually asking the producer to turn down every single track you have so you can hear yourself. Yeah. Right. And it even went into on some of our stuff even just a whisper of a lyric.
Yeah, a whisper
underneath
vocal,
the lead.
whisper track. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just pull that way down in the back, and there's
100%.
something about it that people subconsciously. True. I mean, they wouldn't be able to tell, but subconsciously it's there. It's like, what is it about it? You know,
give you that air.
And Michael knew all about that with the clicks and the snapping of his fingers, tapping his feet. They kept it all. You know,
and there was no Melodyne.
There was no Melodyne
at that point in time.
No.
And so you had to be on point with your intonation.
Yeah, it was a level to try to achieve, and I don't know if anybody ever will to that extent what he did. But so this is where, man, I want to get into some of the nitty gritty.
Cool.
The industry. I want to hear. I want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever stands out. One of your most embarrassing moments. Like, go tell me some stuff. Tell me some. I don't want to say dirt, but give me the good stuff, man.
Well, I've played some of the biggest stages, in the world as a musician. And one of those stages was Times Square, New Year's Eve, 2005. One of the most amazing experiences. There was like 1 million people. It was freezing cold. We were on stage. Mind you, I was playing with Lindsay Lohan, and I was in her band at the time. She had a little pop career. Those of you who know Lindsay know her as an actress and a really good actress. And so she tried to cross over into the pop world. And shout out to Kevin Kadish. He was the one who recommended me for that gig. I got it. It was really interesting because when I was auditioning for that gig, I literally was looking on my phone playing the parts because it was so easy, like with 3 chords, we're talking like triads, it was really easy. And we had a break, and I guess the tour manager or her manager came over and was like, I really love those arpeggios you're playing. I wasn't playing no arpeggios, man. And I remember my guitar player was standing next to me, and him and I just cracking up like, what is this dude? They don't even know that I wasn't even playing an arpeggio.
Wow.
I was literally playing block chords, So there's a lot of bull in this industry, and that's the thing. We're gonna go into that right now, and sometimes not calling it the bullshit out will keep you paid and keep you in the gig.
Yeah.
It was far more advanced than those triads I was playing, but I played those triads
Mm-hmm.
because it was a means to an end. Well, anyways, fast forward, we're out there New Year's Eve and in New York with Lindsay Lohan, and Tommy Mottola was her, I guess, her manager at the time.
Okay.
And so we were kids, man. We were just having a great time and staying out all night and, gambling our per diem away with each other and stuff. And I think I took the whole band's per diem, playing blackjack. But we were doing the AOL sessions before the gig, and then we were playing, not really playing, but we were kind of miming, playing and doing the thing, and Tommy was not happy with the way it looked. And he came in screaming at the band.
Really?
And he just went off on us, man. And he treated his darling Lindsay Lohan, with love. But then he just went in on us. And those of you who don't know Tommy Mottola, he I think he, managed Mariah Carey.
He was married to her, I think, for a minute.
Right, married. Yeah, there you go. And just a powerful Italian gangster type dude, to say. So we were all like frightened, but he just cussed us out. And it was, he could tell we were all really tired. We stayed up all night partying. We were gambling. We were doing everything we shouldn't have been doing, and we just had low energy. But you can't have low energy in the Big Apple. So he cussed us out. But that was one of like the funnier moments. But I kind of lost respect for him at that point. You know what I'm saying? And because I just, I didn't like to be talked to like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And neither, I don't think any of my friends should have been talked to like that.
So it was warranted, but it was the approach.
Yeah, it was the approach. I guess I got my first little taste of a New Yorker's personality.
Okay.
And when you go to New York, these people are just fast, quick, and impatient.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. But ultimately, we ended up playing Times Square New Year's Eve. And we practiced and practiced and practiced. We got on stage, and we ended up miming everything.
Really?
Yeah, so no keyboards weren't on, nothing, no amps were on. But I mean, that's kind of normal, if you play in below 30-degree weather.
True.
You can't really be out there with everything on. But it was just a letdown, man. Yeah. Just a letdown. Like, studied all my life just to get to those moments. And then I'm here playing this whack song,
doing standing acting.
Yeah, standing acting.
Yeah.
And so she it was a great experience because of the people I met and the times and just being a part of that. But it was probably the wackest music that I've ever had to play behind one of the wackest singers. Okay. Shout out to Lindsay, because you are a dope actress. I'll give you your props. For your
lane.
For your lane. So you stepped in our lane, and
you hurt everybody's feelings.
That was some bull. Okay. So I'm glad she's sparing us with all that these days. And so that was probably one of the funnier gigs of my life. And it's funny because I don't ever tell anybody, because you don't get any credit for that. I played Lindsay Lohan's band. Like, what?
Yeah.
The hell you talking about? But it was
not the first thing they're gonna go, man.
Right.
You gotta meet my boy Taylor Graves, man. Yeah. He played with Lindsay Lohan.
See what?
Yeah.
And so that was a fun but embarrassing and every other emotion in between.
Yeah.
Gig.
Yeah. You mentioned New York and Cali.
Yeah.
Different subcultures. But you spent some time overseas too.
Yeah, I did.
Right?
Yeah.
So elaborate on that experience. You had some things, some nuggets you wanted to share on that.
Yeah. Between I'm not going to give the years, but I spent about 5 years in England touring and playing, like a 40-show tour, opening up for different acts, out there. And the opening act is a tough slot, for whoever is doing it, especially if it's your own music. I'm passionate about my music, and when you're not, when you're opening for an artist, you don't necessarily get the full stage or the full audio. And I learned a lot during my opening for artists times, because you don't realize how important that full stage is in order to get the point across of what your music is. And we're a band, we were a band, a 5-piece band. So having more of the stage was more important. So what we ended up doing was pre-show, we would go up to the sound man, we would buy him a drink and give him $100 tip. And he would give us the sound that we needed. This is how you do things.
Yeah.
This is how you manipulate the situation in your favor. And I promise you, you always want to pay the sound man a tip because he hates his job. He doesn't want to be there. And he definitely doesn't like your music. I don't give a shit. Okay? You might think he does, but he doesn't. So, when you do those type of things, you open up the floor for the full sound. So we ended up getting the full sound by, giving the sound man a little something. Same with the tour managers, the main act with the tour manager. Give him a tip, buy him a drink, maybe take him out to dinner. And now you get a little more stage.
Wow.
And so we ended up doing that. And then so what ended up happening is we were upstaging the main act out in England. The band was called The Score. And we ended up just slaying out there because we had so much energy and the main act was laid back and chilling. And so we would get these young fans and they start screaming and following us from city to city. We played like multiple cities in England, all the way up into Glasgow, Scotland, all the way down into Wales, and then all the way down into London and everything. Cambridge and all these places, man. And we just had a time of our lives. But we kept that same theory each and every show. And that was the way for us to really utilize and pull as many fans in. And after the shows, what we did was we would go out into the foyer and sign autographs. And the kids loved that. They were shoulder to shoulder with us. We would be signing autographs, and we were building our fan base one by one, And it was just so cool, man. And with that, there was so many experiences, After the show, it was the after party, and and so in every city we had that. But I just want to make a note that we were in a Sprinter van the whole time. This is not your big old bus tour. Hell no. Nah. Yeah. We was like the little, I don't want to say it, but it was like, the Sprinter van, and it was interesting, man. Paying your dues is very important and inevitable.
Yeah. Hopefully without too much compromise. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, those were gold nuggets right there, man. Bribing the sound man.
That's right. Hey.
So the personalities, or should I say the subculture over there, I mean, that's a big area, Europe and all the other countries you named. What is the climate as far as the fans or reception of people over there? Is it different? Is it obviously there's similarities. Somebody screaming is somebody screaming, but I mean, just overall, is there any particular difference?
I feel like they're into the music a little more. But remember, this was maybe 10 years ago, so things have changed since then. But I feel like in Europe, they really keep the music alive. They really, and especially in England, they really value the musicianship and a good showman and a good show. And so, like you said, a scream is a scream. But they will do that. They will scream for you even if they don't know you. If the music is dope and if they like it. And they did.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to go overseas, especially if you have like a little hit or something that's bubbling and, you don't have the incentive. No, that's the incentive. Go out there and, obviously try to find the funding to do it, but get out there because they actually receive newer artists better than we do out here. We're tough, especially here in LA. Yeah.
Having done some stand-in stuff myself, I've noticed, I think it was Michelle Dockery, I was escorting to the stage at the Emmys or something, and we just conversed like normal people. And she was so sweet and so real. And I feel like it's because it's not celebrated the same way over there. It's just not. It's more personal appreciation for something and not
Yeah.
the accolade of ooh,
Right.
So I think there's that element too. Maybe on the music side too, obviously. Definitely on the acting side.
Yeah.
So without naming any names or anything, what was one of the oh my goodness moments that was kind of shocking about or if there ever was? And if not, one that was just really cool, one that really stood out like this was one of the best moments I've ever experienced.
Well, I was on set for a movie called Burlesque, and it was an awesome experience filming Burlesque for 5 months because I was like an actor. It was like, and it was an amazing time. So basically, there was a cattle call. A buddy of mine, R.I.P. Rick Fleischman, called us to audition for a piano player part in the Burlesque band. And me and my brother were both of us were invited to audition. And so we got there on time because we knew we had to be on time.
Mhm.
We were early, 30 minutes early. So
Good for you.
everybody remember that. You want to be early. So yeah, Pops was like, hey, get there early.
Mhm.
So we got there early. And so we had time to spare. So me and my brother, we rolled up, we smoked in the parking lot, got real faded, baked, and then walked over to the studio to where the audition was. And there was like 50 to 70 piano players, some people we knew, and it was like a piano player hang. It was
Yeah.
actually really dope. It was
Yeah.
Sony Paramount, Culver City. Wait, Paramount Studios, Culver City, I believe. I don't know, one of those studios over there. But yeah, we walked over to where the audition was taking place, and so the cattle call started, and so we got in the line, and they put me right at the front. Oh man, I got paranoid, man. So not only was I faded, but I thought I was gonna be in the back, maybe the last
Have some
audition,
time to recover.
have some time to recover, right in the front. Oh boy, I got nervous. So the person came up to me and was like, "So there's going to be a couple of girls dancing around you. All you got to do is play the piano and act normal." And then I seen the girls that were going to dance around me. I was like, man, this is a job for me. Like, I guess I just was like, this is easy, And so I played some boogie woogie, and the girl dancers were dancing around me all sexy. And I was the first person to audition.
Wow.
And literally, they got through all the stuff. They put me aside because they enjoy what they see.
Right.
They put me aside along with a couple other people. And then we all went home. And a couple days later, I got the call for the gig.
Wow.
And I was really because, first I showed up. I went to the cattle call. A lot of people don't like doing that,
Mhm.
And I was comfortable with the assignment. Obviously, sometimes that's not the case. But for me, having girls dance around me, while I play piano is
Young
what I
cat.
consider fun.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yep.
into it. And so, yeah, I got the gig. It was a 5-month shoot, paid me more than I've ever been paid before.
Mm.
And there was a moment where, well, by the way, the audition was setting me up for Christina Aguilera, who was the main actress in the movie,
Okay.
dancing around the piano.
Mm-hmm.
And if you guys watch the movie, there's a couple of moments where some real risque type stuff happening.
Mhm.
Well, she's dancing around the piano. She, goes topless or grabs the back of my head, all kinds of stuff. And it was basically that audition was preparing for those moments. But there was a moment when we were on set and you film something maybe 20, 25 times sometimes, cut, and then you're waiting, you reset, and then you do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And so while we were resetting, I started playing one of my original tunes that I wrote.
Seize your moment, bro.
And I seized my moment. Well, it's funny because none of the other musicians in the band were musicians. They were models and actors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I was the only real musician. And so business-wise, that was actually really great too because I ended up having to be the contractor on the gig. And you get paid more when you're that.
Yep.
Because I was the one and only musician on the gig. And I could actually show them how to play stuff and do some...
At least emulate it.
I can show them how to emulate
Yeah.
it. And then they needed that. And Rick Fleischman couldn't... he was the contractor, but they didn't want an extra contractor. They needed somebody in the band to do the, work, the paperwork and stuff.
Yeah.
So they gave it to me and I got paid extra. So that was a great thing. But anyways, we were waiting to reset the scene and I played my song and Christina was like, whoa, what is that? And so she came all the way over there and sat next to me on the piano and was like, what are you playing right now? And I'm like, this is a song that I wrote. So I started playing it, and she started humming, and she did a little run and riff. And, you know, as we all know, she can run and riff, and she's an amazing singer. And she's like, I love that, man. Can you put it on CD and give it to me? It was still a time of CDs. And so I was like, absolutely. And so the next day I played it on the piano in my studio and brought her a CD and gave it to her.
That's dope.
Seize the moment, y'all. Seize the moment, because you never know when that moment will come back. Nothing ever happened with that. You know, she got busy.
Yeah.
But it was just a moment in time where we connected and had it, you know, kind of transferred into something that would have been really cool.
Well, built your confidence up even more. And if it circles back, if she's, you know, if memory comes to mind, you know,
Possibly,
sometimes it's one of those things where you come back in the picture and they, for some reason, remember, you know, if it hit them.
Shout out Burlesque.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, all right. I want to get into, let's get into this Grammy of yours.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me how that came about. How did that feel? Was that just the most elated you ever been? Like this is the king of the awards for you, or accolades that you've had? Give the history of that. What's up with that?
Well, you know, I wasn't thinking about winning a Grammy, you know, and I think that's an important thing to mention.
You never thought about winning a Grammy?
Well, I mean, for that record, or for what I was doing.
The work you were doing, you didn't expect it.
Yeah, I didn't expect it. I didn't go, like, before we started writing, me and Thundercat, we weren't thinking Grammy. We were thinking, you know, because he was going through a huge breakup, and it was a depressing time. And It Is What It Is the title of the album, basically throwing your hands up, letting the chips fall where they may. And so that's kind of what the song was about. And if you listen to the song, it's almost like an interlude type of song. And we're saying, you know, is this real? How I feel. And so, you know, the energy was appropriate for what my friend was going through. And his career was blowing up at the time. And I've been a part of all of his records, you know, since the very beginning, you know. Album 1 to album 4, got multiple records on all of those albums, and we're like best friends. You know, we grew up together. He played with YM at times, you know, and recorded. And so, yeah, it was the energy was pure. You know, I had no idea that he was going to be nominated, you know, and I did have friends that were on the Grammy board, but I didn't think of it like he was going to be nominated. But so when he was nominated, I didn't really know what that meant. I mean, obviously he was going to get a Grammy. I didn't know that everybody on the record
collaboratively,
who, you know, worked on the record was going to get a Grammy, or at least get a plaque or something. So, you know, it was shocking and it was amazing, and I didn't really believe it, and meaning like believe the fact that I got a Grammy, and I didn't get a horn. You know, I got a certificate. And in some categories, what people don't understand is you won a Grammy, but you didn't necessarily win a horn, because in certain categories, the horn is only applicable to the main executive producer and the artist. And this would be for the category that is progressive R&B. So like Song of the Year, if you were a producer on the Song of the Year, you would get a horn, or Album of the Year, you would probably get a horn. But because that's such a mainstream category, but for kind of like a offset category, not everybody gets the horn. But you know what? I don't care, because we got that Grammy. And so what I say is I'm a certified Grammy Award-winning producer.
There you go.
Because that's what it is. I got a certificate, and I got that bad boy up in the studio where I started.
Nice.
Right next to where, you know, the booth. You know,
That's
where
awesome.
I started. Yeah, so that meant a lot. When I got that, I was so ecstatic. When I got the certificate, I framed it, you know, I posted it, and I talked about it. And that's another thing, is to promote that type of stuff. Don't be afraid to post it multiple times, because it could get you gigs, and people respect you.
It can.
But also don't be out of reach from people. Because sometimes winning a Grammy means you're too expensive. People can't afford you, and that's not the case either. You want to still work.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
you got to play that. You got to play the balance game.
you
with
got to
that.
play the balance
Yeah.
game. So yeah, I got a Grammy, but I'm still down to work.
Yeah.
Even with the low level artists and the high level artists,
Right.
obviously the price goes up with the high level artists,
Mhm.
but you're still down to work.
Yeah.
So it was an amazing experience. My buddy Thundercat, he shouted out my dad at the Grammy Awards.
Nice.
I didn't go.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't go.
All right.
But he went with the record label, and when he got up there, he shouted out my dad and a couple other fathers that were a huge part, a huge part of their
journey.
Their journey.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool, man, and much respect to Stephen Bruner for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned, I'm gonna go back to the way the industry works and whatnot. Like you talk about playing the balance game.
Yeah.
There does come a point where you got to shut some gigs down because you also can make yourself presentable as you'll work for anything.
Yeah.
And I know coming up in the game when I would do demos for a lot of, when the boy bands were hot,
Right.
I was doing a whole lot of vocals. Yeah.
That's
so I had to go from start off $150 as a demo because I didn't know any better. Like, I didn't know my worth or my value. And to me, it was cool. I hadn't been paid on any level consecutively like that. So I was like, all right, cool. And then eventually you move up and up and up on your demos, and then you're categorizing it. Well, am I doing backgrounds or just lead or both, and that kind of stuff. But when you mentioned that, it made me think about that. When you're at the top, yeah, you do want to be accessible, but you also don't want to be down here. No disrespect to people that are up and coming, but you got to set the tone for yourself.
100%.
Otherwise, people are out, they'll take you for whatever they can get you for.
100%. Also, you're helping the next man out by increasing your price.
Right.
And people don't quite understand that, but like if you're taking gigs at a budget, like a quarter of what you should be taking it, you're actually hurting the next man. You're hurting the community. Raise your prices so we all can raise our prices.
Right.
So this becomes a standard.
Right. It's true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good nugget.
Yeah.
So, we mentioned Dr. Dre, Ty Dolla $ign, some cats you went to school.
That wasn't the craziest award that I've had, though.
Well, do tell, bro. What's the craziest award?
I was part of an animated short called Hair Love.
Well, that's why I was gonna go there, but let's do that now. Let's do that now.
Just kind of segue because you were like, what was the crazy award? And that was probably the craziest one because I did not even expect that call to turn into the last 5 years of crazy work because of that call. A great friend of mine, Monica Young, called me to assist with the music on an animated short called Hair Love. And I was like, yeah, sure. Whatever she needed, I'd be down to do for free. But she had a little budget. But literally because of who she is, and I wasn't really expecting her to pay like a lot of money. So I would have been down for $100, whatever it was. Just so happened to be $500 was the pay. Cool. And so I basically want in the music of that animated short, it was my job to make it youthful in a way. And so I was able to add some elements to the score that brought it into the score was a little mature. And so I was able to, make it to where what you hear, the kids could, relate to it via sound textures and stuff. And so, I did what I did. They loved it.
I loved it.
You loved it. It was such a cute story, and it was a tearjerker, man. So
Listen,
how could we not?
Real quick, if y'all haven't seen it, Hair Love, check out the short first. We'll get into what it became and what it is now.
Yeah.
But if you haven't seen it, I'm telling you, my wife and I watched it many times, and Man Card submitted. Like, I literally almost tear up every single time I watch it. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Shout out Hair Love, man. And representation for Black fathers and all fathers, really, who, are there. And we're present. We're present.
Yeah.
And we're changing that narrative, And so, it was such a cute project. I was down. And it was like, it ended up becoming crowdfunded, and they ended up, being able to secure the funding with certain names being involved, obviously, like Issa Rae and certain names were just involved with it,
Mm-hmm.
and it just conflagrated. It was like a snowball effect
Mm-hmm.
because of the topic, because of the timing that topic was coming out, and it just goes to show you. It taught me a lesson that be available for things that don't pay the most money, even though you if you like the the product, or if you like the gig, do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I liked the show. I liked what I was watching. I thought it was cute, and I was available for that. And I wasn't expecting anything. So it conflagrated, and then it ended up becoming like the opening sequence to the Angry Birds movie.
Yeah.
It was being shown all around, America in movie theaters for the Angry Birds movie. And so it captured the hearts and minds of people instantly. And then next thing you know, it was nominated for an Oscar award.
Yeah.
As an animated short.
Yep.
I'm like, what? I couldn't even believe that, man. It just goes to show you the thing you least expect to win the award will be the thing that wins the award.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we got nominated. We were ecstatic. I didn't even know what that meant. Like, okay, we're nominated for an Oscar. What does that mean? Do I get a statue? What's cracking? And so, yeah, it ended up winning the Oscar award. And it really put the production team on the map. It really put the director on the map, and put myself on the map. It's just everybody who was involved with, the music. Daniel Crawford, the original composer, really put him on the map. And so we celebrated that award. And like the Grammy, not everybody who's involved in the movie or show receives the trophy.
Right.
Only the executive producers and the director. 2 trophies were handed out. The EP got one, and the director got one.
Right.
But we all still win the Oscar. So remember that, folks.
Your name is still on the credits.
Your name is still on the credits. IMDb Oscar award-winning show. You're a composer. You got that Oscar too.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I went to a couple of little after parties or Sony parties and took pictures with the statue and with the squad. And it just opened so many doors for the director and the whole team. So the director went on to doing a whole bunch of stuff for different shows, and then got funding to expand the Hair Love story
to a series.
Yep. And so HBO bought the series. Sony, Paramount, and HBO were teamed up to put it out, and it's now out on HBO right now as we speak. The 12-episode animated series called Young Love, which is the spinoff of Hair Love.
Mm-hmm.
And it expands the story of the mom coming home, beating cancer, and integrating back into everyday life, going back to work. She works at a salon.
Mm-hmm.
And then the father, who is a music producer, goes back to producing music.
Yeah.
And it expands even on Zuri, the daughter, who's going to school and has to deal with life. And it's really cute, and it's for kids and adults alike.
And I think the reason it was so embraced just from the short, it hit on some very sensitive topics to people on numerous levels. I'll let people figure that out when they watch it.
Exactly.
But yeah, it sentimentally hit home on a lot of issues, including fatherhood. I think we need to advocate all the fathers out there that are doing their jobs. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that was a big part of it too.
Yeah, it was.
Awesome, man. So out of all the other some of the other artists that you've worked with, like I was name dropping your list.
That's right. The homies.
Who are some of the people that, obviously Thundercat's on there, y'all are tight.
Yep.
Who are some of the biggest artists that you were like, man, this was an awesome experience? What was the one that really excited you to be able to work with in the studio? We'll start there.
Well, a big reason why I was able to work with Mac Miller was because of Thundercat. He was a big part of that. He introduced me to him, and Thundercat's really generous. He's one of the most generous people I know. Not everybody does that. Not everybody reaches back and pulls people in. Exactly. We talked about that. And it's like he reached back and was like, this is the homie that produced a lot of my music. Check him out. Mac opened up his arms.
Mm.
And even at times when Thundercat wasn't available to be there, I was there working with Mac because of that. And he's one of the bigger names, rappers that I've worked with that, really opened up his arms and became a friend, and we did a lot of music together. A whole album's worth of music that never came out was in the hard drive.
Man.
That's supposed to be coming out, actually. His estate reached out and, they're working on releasing it. It's called Balloonerism. So hopefully that comes out soon. But yeah, that has me, Thundercat, Mac, and a few other people on Scissors on it, and a few other people on it that are just a big part of that time and that era. He's not the biggest artist I've worked with because, as you know, being a session singer, we've all worked with some of the biggest artists on the planet.
Yeah.
Like Barbra Streisand, on the Democratic National Convention singing in front of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, or working with Dr. Dre and he brings in The Game and we all do a song together.
How was that?
Oh, it was amazing, man. Dre is basically an inspiration. One of my bigger inspirations as a producer, and because of his work ethic. He ain't playing no games, when he gets in the studio, man. He's literally working on the music. He ain't macking on the girls. He ain't smoking the. He ain't doing none of that, man. He's literally in there. Focused. And he's a student of the game as well, meaning he knows about the MPC sampling. He knows about the SSL board and all the different, EQs and compression and all that stuff. And he's learning it from the guys that do it, the engineers that are the beasts. Yeah. And he learned from that. So he's in it. And he's staying up to the wee hours, 7 a.m. We'll go from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I'm getting tired. He's in there doing it. Yeah. And it's I called it the billionaire, energy, because that's what that is, man. He's willing to stay up to the champion through the champion hours. We call it the champion hours, 3 a.m. to about 8 a.m. And he's, he was just really gracious. Me and my brother came in, Trevor Lawrence Jr., amazing producer, drummer. He basically suggested that me and my brother come in and audition to, help, basically be part of the production team. And so we came in and we just played piano for him, and he was like, what? Yeah. And, he sat there for an hour. Every time we walked in the studio, the first thing we would do is let's go to the grand piano and just jam. And he would sit there and watch. And so he eventually said, I just want to, learn as much from you guys as I can. And you guys can learn as much as you guys want from me. We can just start writing. And so the idea was to work on the Detox album. Okay. But he was very gracious by saying that. Yeah. This is Dr. Dre saying that.
He's very down to earth.
Yeah, very down to earth. People don't know that about him. But obviously he has to respect you, and we have to gain that respect first. Yeah. Obviously if you're a beast in your instrument or at something, he's going to respect that because the man, he knows music. That's for sure. And he plays a little piano too. So we were playing Chopin concertos, and then I'd play this, and then he was like, all right, you guys are beats, let's go in there. And so he listened to a lot of our beats, our demos. One song he loved so much, he spent 3.5 weeks on it. And I was even in the studio, kind of vocal producing him when he got on the mic. Then he went in and vocal produced me when I got on the mic. We were working on the Sony C800. That was his favorite mic. Okay. And it was just an amazing experience. But then he would also have the craziness come in. He would have The Game come in. He would come in with all these, girls. There would be some gangsters. And he thrived off that energy. Okay. So he would have the shit banging, turn it up really loud to where your ears are popping and bleeding. So we would all need earplugs sometimes, some of us. But he would be checking if you would go for them earplugs. Who's the bitch and who ain't? It's hold on, I got perfect pitch. Bro, I'm stop playing with me, man. So,
I'm saving these.
I had to save them. He would have subwoofers being hauled in, new subwoofers into a studio that already had subwoofers and massive speakers. So. But it was just,
on your chair.
Yeah, he would play it to bump it so loud. But then he thrived off that gangster life energy. You can always tell that, and he would see if people are bobbing their heads or what the girls were thinking and all that. And he even spit some game to us one time. He was like, once you find your sound, try not to deviate from it. And because we were trying to get him to deviate a little bit, I was like, come on, let's try something different. Because I just came from the UK and I was listening to grime and different BPM, and I'm like, check this out. And he actually tried it.
Yeah.
I give him his props, man. He listened to the kids and he was trying some. But then when he felt like it wasn't right, all right, next, what else we got?
Yeah, squash it. This is why I'm a billionaire. Let's go.
Right. And then that's when he kind of gave us that rundown. He was like, this is why I'm successful. I don't deviate too much.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
Yeah.
And, I'm melodic, because of my piano playing and stuff.
That's why I appreciate you.
Thank you, man. For him, he was, some of that stuff was a little too soft for him. He's a little darker.
Gotcha.
Play some that we can kill somebody to. Okay, I
Okay.
get you now. All right.
All right.
Minor chords. Here we go.
Ominous.
Yeah, man, straight up.
Okay.
So me and my brother did that for about 1.5 years, and he would invite us over to his residences and with his family, and we played chess together, and I almost beat him in chess, but I was also scared to beat him. So I let you win, Dre.
Don't forget about the OG.
It was intense. But then, he pulled me aside and said, I really love the way you and your brother work together. It reminds me of like my brother when he was alive. And so that was a little bit of an insight as well into why he always had us around during those moments. And, he enjoyed that energy.
And nostalgia, probably.
And nostalgia.
Yeah.
And the fact that I wasn't in competition with Cameron, my brother Cameron Graves. I wasn't in competition. Like, he's his own beast. We can appreciate that. And then when you deal with me, I'm my own situation.
Yeah.
And the very last time I hung out with Dre, because I haven't heard from him since then, I basically went over to his residence in Malibu where he has a studio, but we weren't working on music. We were just chilling, played some pool, ate some food, watched The Big Lebowski, and he brought out some of his favorite, because when he's at home, that's when he's able to chill. Brought out some Jackie O, just like a sativa. I'm like, okay. And so we ended up smoking and chilling and kicking it, and because he never really smoked when we was at the studio. Never. He drank gin and juice, but was never smoking. And so that night, I was playing his piano, grand piano, and he was like, look, man, you got your own style. You could do what I'm doing, You just got to go do it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like his farewell speech to me, but I didn't know it at the time. Because I haven't heard from him since then.
Yeah.
And I told him already that we were going on tour in England, got this band, got that thing going on, a few things were going on, and he actually loved that. But, when you work with Dre, you got to be locked down with Dre.
Yeah.
And we weren't, he had a lot of things going on. But he said, you got your own style, man. You could do what I do. Just go do it. And I never forget that, man. So that night, we were smoking, chilling, watching Big Lebowski. And then he was like, all right, I'm going to crash out. You guys can leave whenever you want. And so it was late. I was faded. So I ended up just falling asleep on the couch because I didn't want to drive late, didn't want to drive drunk, high, all that stuff. So I chilled. But then I woke up around like 4 a.m. Literally, this is such a dope crib, man. Such a dope crib. Like the water would kiss the balcony, right there, Billionaire Mile. And so I was like, I better get out of here, man. 4 a.m. What am I doing, And so I went out to leave, but then I realized I locked my keys in the car. I was so anxious to get inside and hang and do all that stuff. And it was an old school car, so, you really needed...
Threw it to the wind.
Yeah, it was like, yo, what am I doing? So I had to call AAA. And so I let AAA into Dr. Dre's residence, which I know he's seen on a camera sometime somewhere. And I let this young kid in to, get my keys out of my car. So finally I got the keys out the car, but then it was like almost 6 a.m. I was like, I'm tired. Let me just go back in and fall back to sleep. So I instead of leaving, I go back inside to the couch and I fall asleep. And 7:30 in the morning, this dude comes up, hey, we got to go. Got some work to do. I was like, oh. It's like, damn, I'm tired. And he was like, nah, man, we gotta go. And I was like, man, that's that billionaire energy right there. Here it is.
It was Dre that did that?
That was Dre. Yeah, he came down from, I guess.
Shook you awake?
He didn't shake me awake, but he was like, hey, and I was already kind of, awake. I was dozing. And morning time came and he had to go. We all jumped in our cars. And we left.
Wow.
And I ain't seen him since, man. And I was like, wow, man.
That's a memory, man.
That's a memory.
So if you were to be able to now, who are some of the people that are on your list that you'd like to work with
Well,
at your disposal, if they were at your disposal, hypothetically?
well,
But we pray it's in reality, you know,
right.
one
Are
day.
they alive or not alive?
Oh, that was the second one.
Okay.
Alive, and then
Alive, I'd like to work with her. HER. I think I could bring some really cool elements, dimensions to her music that I don't think anybody else really can. I mean, some other people could do other things, but I think my sound would be really, really dope with her. So, her, if you're hearing this, would love to work with you.
her,
And
get at 'em,
yeah, please do.
please.
And you can get at me through Jeff Gittleman, who is a good friend of mine. He works with you all the time. But I'd love to work with her because she's dope.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's probably others, but I can't really think of others right now. I'd like to work with Rihanna at some point. And even Billie Eilish. You know, I think
Oh yeah.
my sound would be pretty dope with hers.
Yeah.
You know, like I could give these people some like dimension in their sound too that you know, similar to like the Thundercat sound. It would give them some of that, you know. And I know that, you know, that's popping right now.
Yeah.
If you check out like the soundtrack for Atlanta, you even check out Thundercat's career. I mean, it's really relevant.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that so they can kind of get a taste of what your production's like and
Yeah.
your style and whatnot. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, so no longer with us.
George Duke. I met him too.
Mm.
I met him through Ronald Bruner Jr., one of my good friends. Ronald was touring with him. They had a party. George came through. That's my idol, man. I would love to make some music with the Falsetto King.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, because there's many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that would be great. That would be a goal of mine.
Wow.
Yeah. What's good though, what's really amazing is I'm working with Stanley Clark. I've toured with Stanley Clark, me and my brother. And
So-
that's George Duke's best friend.
Stanley Clark, Poetic Justice.
That's right.
Yep. For
Yeah.
those-
Yeah, and he's an amazing film scorer as well. Taught us so many things, gave us so many nuggets. And we even did John Singleton's Wake at USC with Stanley
did
Clark.
you?
Yeah, I
Wow.
was doing the string stuff. My brother was playing grand piano,
That's
and Stanley
cool.
was playing upright.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm pretty close to George.
That is awesome, man. Wow. Wow. Okay. Let's see. What advice
Mm-hmm.
would you give somebody that wants to get into this thing, the beast, the machine, the industry? What advice, just off the cuff, that you would give somebody to brace themselves or prepare themselves?
You know, stay grounded in your faith and in your family and who you are and where you come from. You know, and if you do that, I feel like, you know, you'll be guided. Your North Star will be clear. You know, I say North Star because people follow the North Star to know where the north is. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel you forget that. And something happens when you make money, a lot of money, and you have a lot of success. It alters your DNA, I believe. And you get power, which alters your DNA as well. And I'm not a scientist, so I can't prove that. But something happens, man. But if you can stay rooted in your faith and in your family and where you come from, I believe that you can enjoy the ride, man. You can have a good time, you know, and obviously when you make more money, you can, you know, eat healthier foods and visit places that you've never been before and learn things and
Decompress in better places.
Right, decompress in better places. But the main thing that money should, I feel, give you is the ability to stay open-minded and experience more things, you know, and I think that's that should be everyone's main goal, is to experience as much as possible, you know, and so stay rooted, you know, in who you are so you can have a better time experiencing life.
Yeah. Okay. Here's my last question.
Oh, we're already at the end? I ain't even got to the scathing part. Not just playing.
Hey, I wanted to know about that.
Well, you know, you got to live your own life to find that. Some things can't be told.
I was going to ask you let's get to this. What new material you have coming out right now?
There it is.
And where finish by saying where people can follow you, get your material, learn more about you,
Awesome,
and
man.
hire you.
There it is. Great question. I just put out an EP, kind of under the silence of the night. Not really many people knew about it, but that's why I put it out and how I wanted to put it out. It's called Taste, and it's available on all platforms. You just type in Taylor Graves and then Taste, and it'll come up. And it's me singing R&B, traditional R&B, falsetto, stacks, everything we were talking about.
Yep.
And I wanted to put this EP out to have as a marker to show that, I do this R&B stuff and I love it and I live it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm more progressive with the stuff that you may hear on everybody else's record that I work on.
Mm-hmm.
But this is some traditional R&B, crooning kind of stuff that I wanted to start out with in terms of like my releases, my musical releases in the future. So check out Taste. And I'm working on a full-length album with Kimbra, who's one of my best friends, who I tour with. She did the song with Gautier, somebody that I used to know. She's one of the most amazing singers and people that I know. And so I finally got a chance to basically be the main producer and produce an entire record on her. And I've been so inspired by like the Nelly Furtado Timbaland collab. I've always told Kimbra this too, like I need to make some bangers for you and then you sing and do you. And so that's coming out hopefully April, May.
Awesome.
And so I'm really excited to finally be the main producer on that record for her.
Yeah, man.
And so look out for that. It's called Heroes and Vices.
Heroes and Vices, yo.
I think that's what the name of it's called. That's kind of shifting.
Is it subject to
until it comes out?
It's subject to switch.
Yeah, it's subject to switch. You know how artists are sometimes they switch things, but yeah, Heroes and Vices. So I'm working on those two things, and also I'm scoring silent films for the Mary Pickford Foundation.
Oh, awesome!
Nobody really knows about this, but Mary Pickford was a silent film star in the turn of the century, as big as Charlie Chaplin in some ways. And so her foundation has reached out to my brother and I. We're doing it as the Graves Brothers.
That's awesome, dude.
We're a scoring duo.
Yeah.
And so it's a silent film. And it's all classical, so you can check that out at the Mary Pickford Foundation.
And your website?
And my website is taylorgravesofficial.com. And on that website, you could find my links to my Instagram, my Spotify, any link to whatever I do, you can find it. taylorgravesofficial.com. And that's also my handle on Instagram, taylorgravesofficial, because I'm official. Wait till you see the unofficial page.
Whoa. Hey, man, Taylor, thanks so much for being on here today and sharing your journey and all your amazing talents, stories, skills, all that. And praying for continued blessings in your career. And I look forward to more updates, of which we come back and we elaborate more on that. Because I'm sure there's other stuff, other stories and stuff that we still didn't even dig into.
We can go a whole 8 hours.
We could. And perhaps we will on on another show. But yeah, man, blessings on your career and what you do.
I'm
honored to be a friend and looking forward to doing future work together somehow.
Yeah,
some
we
way.
need to finish some songs and we got some songs together, y'all. And y'all need to check out Trig, man. He's killing it. One of the dopest vocalists I've worked with. And can't wait to dig back into our music, man. So let's do it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Stay tuned for the next background stories. Until then, take care, y'all.
Peace.